Welcome back to People's Guide to Publishing. I am your host, Joe Beal, the autistic publisher, author of A People's Guide to Publishing, the book, and founder and CEO of Microcosm.
I'm Ellie Blue. I'm the editorial and marketing director and co-owner of Microcosm, publishing and distribution.
This week, we are going to talk about a oft discussed, rarely considered, mostly neglected area of book publishing, which is marketing. That was good.
Yeah, damn, here. Left my elbow. Okay. Well, nobody thinks marketing and is like, ooh, marketing, how nice. You know, like, I think they imagine that you're, like, standing in the grocery store offering little tastes of frozen fish or something.
Right, are we doing that?
Which is also marketing.
Wait, should we do that?
We've done stuff like that before.
We've never given away frozen fish.
That's true. But books, zines, stickers.
It probably has happened.
Like, what it really means is bringing the book to the market for the book, which is the people who would want to buy the book.
Yeah, I would go even a step further and say that it's making the people who would be interested in it knowing that it is available and exists.
Yes.
And how they might bring it into their own possession.
And when you put it that way, it's not a dirty trick. What most people think of as marketing, where you're like trying to spam as many people as possible with information about your product, is the opposite of marketing.
Yeah.
Because that is like telling a lot of people that don't want your product that your product exists, and then they are not better off for knowing that.
So what are some common types of effective book marketing?
So book marketing effectively could be anything from, say, the author or the publisher having an email newsletter and telling the people that have like actively signed up and actively want to know about their books that the new ones exist so that they can get on that. Another form of marketing is running a crowdfunding campaign, like a Kickstarter campaign. People think of that as fundraising, but it's really, really, really best as marketing. It's like a way for people to find and buy your book who otherwise wouldn't have known about it, who are excited to know about it.
Yeah.
Another form of marketing is going to events, whether that's publishing trade shows or events where potential readers of your books are going. Like if you publish books that are of interest to the queer community, table at Pride. That's great marketing.
Right.
If you publish books about running, table at the end of the race.
So most publishers use bookstore reps as their field marketing force. That's the most common type of marketing.
Can you explain that like a little bit more?
So that means that they will have a presence at these regional trade shows, and then, you know, each show caters to a couple hundred booksellers in that territory, meaning a couple hundred bookstores in that territory. And then those stores will then learn about the books at the trade show, and then they will in turn order, purchase, and sell those books to their customers, because they will then know the talking points because they've been taught by the publishers at those shows. And, you know, so that is a major reason why COVID has done such a number on new releases, is because all of that infrastructure has been decimated.
Right. There's not like a way to teach booksellers how to sell your books and turn them into your little mobile marketing force.
So that's why, if you have been following the bestsellers, it's older books. It's books that have been out. You know, it's books that are topically relevant. You know, like So you want to talk about race, or have a relevance for reasons other than the fact that there's a lot of marketing dollars behind them at this time.
So one of the things that surprised me most when I started working in book marketing was how much of marketing is about data. Like making sure your title is good. Like it crosses over a lot into title development and cover development, even though marketing doesn't necessarily control those functions. But you need to have a title and a cover that market your book for you, essentially, where anyone seeing it will instantly know whether or not it's for them and what it's about. Another major important aspect is like knowing what keywords to use for it, knowing how to describe it, knowing just like, I just think of it as like taking away every possible barrier to somebody who wants to read the book recognizing that they want that. And a lot of that involves spreadsheets and databases and database bugs and stuff that many people might find not to be very exciting. Some people love it.
Very joyful. But so then you have to take another step back, and marketing really begins when you say, what are all of the audience, or I'm sorry, what are all of the reasons that someone might be interested in this book? From there, what are all the audiences that would be interested in those reasons to want this book? And then, just basic things like, okay, how do I reach those people? What are the other things those people are interested in? Like, why are they interested in those things, I get a lot of pushback on this when I do college classes and such. It's the same for fiction as it is for nonfiction. If you can't see it, it means you're not looking at who the audience is for your books. There's always an audience for your books. Your audience is never just a generalized, like, milquetoast public. There is always going to be some way to understand them as a group.
So a lot of what is helpful to do as a publisher that has worked for us is not just focusing on individual book marketing, but building up another buzzword everyone hates, brand.
Oh.
But, just making sure that, like, every book we publish is not just true to our values and our mission and we like it, but also that it's something that our built-in audience will recognize as also being for them. And, like, not every reader of ours wants to read every book. Sometimes they do. We have a subscription program for the people that are like, what's Microcosm going to do next? Mm-hmm. But just to make sure that, like, there's nothing that we're publishing that's just completely out of left field. We don't nail it every time, but when we miss, that is the greatest lesson to bring us back to what we do best. So, a lot of marketing is in your overall strategy also. And I mean, I think of it as like a relationship. You're just building a lot of relationships and you're trying to be true to yourself at every turn. So, like, whether that's talking directly to readers or whether that's negotiating with the distributor for terms that will allow you to keep bringing those books to readers at a price that you can afford, or any of that, like, it's really, about being your best self so that you can have your best relationship.
Right. And at the end of the day, we do run into a lot of pushback on this matter because people really believe that their book will just be discovered on the merits of the work, and that is not the case. You really need to bring it to the people that would be interested in it, because otherwise, it's like the scattershot effect does not work in the modern era when you are competing with, tens of millions of other books. It just, you really need to hone in on the people that care.
Yeah, I mean, books don't have to have merit to be successful, is the hard truth.
Also an important hard-won lesson.
Which doesn't mean it's not worth aiming for, but...
We will have two books, and one is clearly better than the other, and the other one maybe is better developed than the other, and the book that we feel is not the better book is the better selling book, Mm-hmm. And it is moments like those that are the most educational to really step back and unpack.
So another thing we consider in marketing is we develop books for specific markets. Like, if we have a customer that we know will buy thousands of copies of a book, we will develop a book specifically for them, whether that's signing the book to begin with, or whether that's, like, making the cover a certain way that we maybe, like, we might not make a cover a certain way for bookstores, but we would make it for the, like, witchcraft shops.
Right. And so this book, The People's Guide to Publishing, it works, it's this smaller size for the gift market. It also works in bookstores. It works in the educational market. It works in the library market. We have 4 solid footholds.
What's a book that we've developed for, like, one specific market that we would have done differently?
So Portland Stairwalks is its regional gift title that does very well in select bookstores as well. But if we were developing this book for, a class of customer, it would be a different size. It would, it would have totally different attributes in every way. And you wouldn't need to have such a bold, visible, legible title at first glance. Whereas with the Practical Witch's Almanac, legibility is less important than overall aesthetic. It needs to have a certain look to let people know that it belongs there. Versus, if we had big, bold, legible type, it wouldn't it would hurt the book.
Another marketing activity publishers commonly do is printing things like flyers and posters, brochures. Sometimes we do direct mailing.
Yeah.
Often that is in conjunction with the sales department, and that is really a numbers game. And it's also about like knowing your market and knowing what's needed. But like I think one of the best marketing things that we do is anytime we send out an order to anyone, we include our catalog of other books.
Yeah.
Which seems really basic, but a lot of people don't do it.
Right.
And you just want to assume that the person buying your book is somebody who will want to know about your books.
Mm-hmm.
And that's...
Let us hope.
And if not, then, they
can ignore you.
Or they can write a review on Amazon like we got once where the person said, I got this other book with my book that I wouldn't give to a dog to shit on.
Right. And
and
really,
then you can treasure that forever.
If there was anything to strive for, it is that review. Our height, we made 6 different annual brochures, and we would make each one for a certain customer class. So we would make one for grocery stores, we would make one for record stores, we would make one for occult and witchcraft shops. They could get a new one every year, and we could send the previous year's brochure because it would contain different titles. And then that would help to open new accounts as well as creating repeat business from those accounts. And just in general, helping to move the needle along.
The real magic in that, though, was in our lists.
Yeah.
Like, you can't just buy a list, or you can't just, spam a list. Like, you need to, really hone it down, and we actually call everybody that we're planning to mail something to find out, A, if they exist, and B, if they're appropriate, and C, who we should address it to.
Yeah.
It's that's where the bulk of the work goes. And that's the value in it.
Yeah. This has been A People's Guide to Publishing. I am your host, Joe Beal, the autistic publisher, author of A People's Guide to Publishing.
I'm Elliot Blue, marketing and editorial director at Microcosm.
Till next week, where we talk about how to join the revolution. Thanks for joining us once again.
Please send your questions to podcast@microcosmpublishing.com so we can answer them on future episodes.
And please give us 5 stars on iTunes and everywhere else that podcasts are reviewed.
You can find us on the internet at microcosm.pub.
On Twitter at Microcosm.
On Facebook at Microcosm Publishing.
On Instagram at Microcosm_pub.
And here in Portland, Oregon on North Williams Avenue.
Thank you so much.
Have a wonderful week.